You just want to know why. If someone says no, what was it?
Mm-hmm.
And what I would want to do to take a step further, you want to own it.
Yeah.
Own the why they said no.
Welcome to the Branded Hustle Podcast. I'm Darryl, and I'm here to get your sales game tight.
And I'm Lori, and I'm here to get your brand looking right.
Let's get to hustling.
Welcome back to the Branded Hustle Podcast, episode 3. So glad you guys are here.
Me too.
Yeah. So we have a great episode for you today. It is titled How to Make Your First Sale. And if this is your first time watching or listening to the Branded Hustle Podcast, this is a podcast where we talk about everything sales and everything branding.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Super excited.
Yep. So first question for you is going to be this. It's going to be how to make your first sale. We want to be very specific, though, for everybody watching.
Okay.
So it's not just like how to make your first sale in general. We want to break it down to a few different segments. Like if you're a real estate agent, what would you do? Or if you were like in phone sales, right now, what would you do? Or if you sell door to door, what would you do? Like we want to give you guys some ideas on how to make your first sale.
Yeah. So little tips that we've learned along the way.
Exactly.
Perfect. Awesome.
Cool. So let's ask the first question. So if you were, let's say, a leasing agent, which you were for many years.
Yeah, I was.
Right?
I
loved it. You were a killer for many years as a leasing agent, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So why don't you give everybody some advice of what to do if this is your very first day on the job as a leasing agent and you want to make your first sale or get your first lease?
Okay. I mean, honestly, this is a very loaded question because I literally feel like I could have a whole podcast on just this because I had so many tips that I would do.
Yeah.
Little tricks. First day on the job, I mean, it sounds so cliche, but it doesn't hurt to always have a smile on your face, especially doing something at leasing agent.
Okay.
People are walking in wanting to find their next home.
Mm-hmm.
People don't play around with their next home. That's one of their, if not their biggest expense monthly is their home. So they want to make sure they have the perfect one. And I don't blame them because that's how I was too, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, just like a smile, being really warm and genuine and getting to know them. That was always my go-to is I wanted to get to know them to find something relatable to them.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Like what are some things you would do though? Like, okay, they walk in, they obviously have some interest, right? Because they walk into the apartment on their own accord.
Yeah.
You didn't have to like put a flyer up or like cold call them to get them to come in. So like what's step number 2? Like you smiled, right? You're warm, you greeted them. Like what's step number 2 to get them to be like, okay, cool. I like this place.
Like get to know them. Like ask them questions like, oh, what brings you to this area? Where are you from? If they say like San Antonio, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love San Antonio, go Spurs.
Yeah.
If they're from Houston, oh, go Rockets. Honestly, like sales is about just relating to the person, making them feel warm.
Right.
You know? So I just get to know them and that automatically puts down the guard. That's what you want to do as a salesperson, especially with leasing agents. You want them to put the guard down because sometimes it's tough. Sometimes especially like when I was a leasing agent, it's two different things. Student housing is different than being conventional. Okay.
Okay.
So with conventional like apartments,
you did both, by the way.
I did both. Yeah, I did both. With student housing, man, you gotta stroke those parents' egos to no extreme. Like you gotta keep going and going. Like, oh, you guys are doing a great job raising Jan. I don't know why I said Jan, but whatever. You know, like
yeah.
I will get my sales in student housing by boasting their egos.
Yeah.
And being like, Dad, you're doing a great job, Dad, providing for your family. And this is a very safe space for mom. Like I would tell the mom, like, it's a very safe neighborhood, a very safe apartment. I live here, so I haven't had any issues. Of course, you got to watch out with fair housing and all that stuff. It's a little tricky. But yeah, that's what I do. I just I wanted them to feel like I was their friend.
Yeah. So you would say things like the parents come in and you'd be like, wow, okay, so this is your second child and they're also pre-law? Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Like boost the ego up, right?
Yeah, boost the ego up. So that was something I did for student housing. For conventional, it's more so like, I know. This is actually a little trick I used to do, which it's not that much of a trick. It's just literally like visualizing them. Like have them visualize their life in that apartment. So obviously I love home decor. And I've loved home decor since I was little. It comes from my mom. I just remember like Saturdays waking up and my mom moving like the sofas around, moving like the chairs around and changing like photos and changing pictures and stuff. Right. She just always loved home decor. So that's where it comes from. So when I would sell the apartment, I would tell, especially if it was ladies, even with guys too, I would be like, let me do a girl version and a guy version.
Okay.
Oops, I'm like knocking my microphone over. Okay, so for the girl version, I would be like, okay, so right here we can put a couch with little like poofs on the side, like little poofs on like little chairs or whatever. If we want to do like a blue home decor vibe, or we can do like some pink, and we can watch like Sex in the City here, like it's perfect with some wine, and they get all excited, right? With a dude, it was like, dude, like imagine Sunday night football. You know what I'm saying? Like a really nice couch here with some recliners, some beer. Like this is like the perfect spot. And they get like in their head.
Right.
And it just like instantly they just smile and they're like, ooh, I can see myself here.
You're painting the picture for them.
Paint the picture for them.
Yeah.
Because that's what people need. Like, especially when like, think about it. When we watch those like HGTV shows, right? People go into these houses and they're like, oh, I don't like it. Because they can't see the vision.
Right.
But then you have like a Joanna Gaines or Hometown and Erin. I was like, what's her name? Erin from Hometown.
Yeah.
They paint the picture for them, and then they're like, oh, okay, I see it.
So let me ask you this, though. Like, let's say they just literally walked into, like, the apartment complex, like, the main office of the apartment complex. Like, you said, like, get to know them. But what are some of the main questions you would ask in order to know, like, if you bringing up football, like a football living room for a guy in 20 minutes from now would work? Like, what would you ask to, like, get those clues to know what to say by the time you actually get into the apartment?
I mean, honestly, you just kind of got to go off of like, if you don't ask outright, you know, like, what do you like to do? Which sometimes you can, you know. But if you don't, you just like look at what they're wearing. Like, it might sound stereotypical or like a little judgmental, but are they wearing running shoes? Okay, then they might be athletes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Are they wearing like, I don't know, Vans or something? You know, it's like, it's just, you literally like scan the people of like what you see. Like even like their earrings, you know what I'm saying? Like you say, oh, I love your earrings. Stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, sometimes you, like, I remember one time I guessed wrong and I thought a dude liked sports. He did not like sports. He's like, oh, I'm not really a sports person. And I was just like, it kind of took me aback because it's like weird for me because I love sports so much.
Right.
But yeah, it was just like, okay, awkward. You know, so I tried to like, if I didn't know for certain, I wouldn't mention it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah. Or you like, another one I would do is like just going like for a romantic evening or something. Or going for like a relaxation place where you talk about like, what's it called? Like you're working all the time and you work so hard for your money and you're tired and you want to come home to like a relax. Everybody's all about relaxation. Right. So when there's times where I couldn't read the people, I would always go for the relaxation of like, this is your sanctuary. That always worked.
Yeah. Nice. Nice closes.
Yeah.
So let me give one too.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that's great for leasing agent. I actually have one to add. It's a little more like real estate-y. Tell me what you think about it though.
Okay.
So let's say like you're doing your discovery up front, right? Like so they come into the office, they sit down, you're talking for a second, and you're like before you get their license, and you're asking like, okay, let me grab your license so we can go look at a few properties, you know, that we have. Like, one thing that I've heard real estate agents do when they're getting to know somebody, they just want to know, like, hey, what's the one thing that you cannot live without? What's that one thing? And some people will be like, you know, if it's real estate, they might be like, oh, well, you know what? I want a house that's like 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, 2,500 square feet. But like, really what's important to me is like having a big tree in the backyard. Because when I was, you know, growing up, I always wanted to have a big tree. So like what the agent would do, the real estate agent would be like, they show them maybe a house that's 2,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, maybe something like that. I don't know, maybe 2 bath. But the first thing that they do is take them right to the big backyard with the big tree. And so I'm like, look, this is the tree you wanted. Yeah. To get them excited, right?
Yeah. That's another thing I used to do is always always show off the best thing. Yeah. Like when it was like an apartment with a view, I'd be like, you guys, come over here. And you already know the tricks I used to do where I would literally close all the doors of the apartment so I can like open it and like this like grand like entrance, like this is your bedroom. Yeah. It worked though, I'm telling you. So yeah, that's important. So with
this
real
is
estate,
where you live.
Yeah, with real estate it's a little different because you look for these houses for them versus like these apartments. Like apartments are a dime a dozen. Right. And it's not really anything special, you know? So you have to honestly, I feel like one thing that I always told myself when I was like killing in apartments is that people aren't buying the apartment, they're buying me. Yeah, absolutely. You know? And that's one thing that it kind of coincides with the branded hustle is the brand of yourself and sales, you know? And I just always wanted to make them have a good experience so they wouldn't forget. Because I guarantee you, like, especially where we lived in South Austin, when I worked there, it was like apartment row. There was like apartment after apartment after apartment on First Street. So it was just like a lot of competition. And they would tell me like, oh yeah, we're going down this whole row of like apartments. And I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need to make myself super like leave a great impression so they don't forget.
Right.
And they would come back and be like, I mean, I'm not trying to brag on myself, but they would drop me off cakes when they lived with us, and they would drop like, oh, you want some coffee? And they'd come and like always say hi. So it was like I created that friendship, you know. And that's important when it comes to like leasing agents and even real estate, you know.
Yeah, giving them a real reason to like trust you.
Exactly. They're trusting you with their home and their family. Yeah. It's not something like
deal,
it's not like buying like a cell phone or some like shoes or clothes.
Right.
Like they're trusting you with their life.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So I have a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is, you know, I think these tips that I have for door-to-door salespeople are pretty good.
Yeah.
I haven't gone door-to-door in quite some time, but I have some ideas.
He has experience.
I do. I have some ideas of what would really work if you're a brand new door-to-door salesperson. I think what you're trying to do, the number one thing is get the appointment, right? Or get somebody to like open the door to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I think today, you know, maybe some people won't be as like willing to open the door and talk to you as maybe like previous years, whatever, right? But I have some ideas that could help.
Okay.
So if I was a door-to-door salesperson, the first thing that I would do, I would look to see if they have a Ring doorbell. Because here's the thing, like you go knocking on the door, most people, maybe they won't answer, maybe they're not home, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like if you use that Ring doorbell to your advantage, it could work. Like, let me give you an example. So you go up to the door, right? Knock, knock, knock. You're waiting for a second. They don't answer. Okay. After 10 seconds, you know, they're not coming to the door. Like odds are they don't want to, they're not here, whatever, right? Whatever reason they're saying no for now, even though they don't know what you have to offer. It could be the best thing ever. But for whatever reason, they don't want to come to the door. So
especially during a pandemic.
We're
not answering the door. We just talk. We just speak through the Ring doorbell.
Right. Yeah. So what I would do if I wanted to get an appointment with someone, I would just use that Ring doorbell. You know, it's already recording you. Mm-hmm. So what I would say, it was knock, knock, knock. 10 seconds, they don't answer. Then I would just pitch the Ring doorbell straight up. I'd be like, hey, so I'm Darryl. I get it right now. Like everybody wants to stay inside, stay safe. One thing I think is cool for you to know. So I'm Darryl with blah, 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 blah company, and we do this and da-da-da, and your neighbor over here is using this too. Like I do a little pitch. I'd make it short. I'd make it like 20 seconds, maybe 30.
For sure.
But I'd make sure I would also leave my phone number, leave my email.
Yes.
So at least they know what it's about. You know, I think sometimes when you're like doing phone sales, we'll talk about this later, when you leave a voicemail, it could be good, it could be bad, depending on how much information you leave, right? Because you want to pique curiosity. But I feel like if you're coming to somebody's door, they want to know what it is. And maybe they've already thought about getting solar. Maybe they already thought about changing their HVAC system or maybe getting new lawn care, but they don't maybe know that you do that. They just see you in a polo and they're not really paying much attention. But if you talk to them,
the impression you leave,
right, and like be cheerful, be happy when you do it. I think a lot of people are like give the notification on their phone and be like, "What is this?" Okay, it to me works better than a voicemail. Personally,
totally.
Because it's personable. It's like it's a literal person leaving me a video message, and it's hard not to respond to a video message. That's I think.
I agree.
So that's what I would do. If I was in door-to-door sales right now, I'd go and if they don't answer, I'd do a tight video, mail chat, whatever it's called. I do a little like leave a video of myself on their phone at their front door, and I think, you know, I'm like if I play the percentages game, I'll probably win a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because who else is doing that right now? Most people just knock.
It's the little things like that people don't realize. And that's why like I love doing this podcast, because giving little tips. Like going back to the whole leasing thing, what I used to always do is I used to attach like a little butterscotch candy to my business card. So I'd have them on my desk. So when I would be like, okay, well, if my goal was always to get them to sign the lease right there. But if they didn't, I would give them a candy. It's something so small, but it worked. But also going back to the real estate agent.
It's like Pavlov's dog. Remember that Pavlov's dog, the science experiment?
Oh yeah. We just saw that.
Look it up, Google it if you don't know it.
We saw that episode of Big Bang, right? That's what you're talking about.
No, I just knew it from before.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheldon was doing that with Penny because Sheldon was getting tired of Penny's behavior, so he started giving her a chocolate every time he would ask her to do something and she would do it.
Yeah.
Like, you want a chocolate?
Good girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Leonard was like, "Wait, what are you doing?" Like, it was funny. Anywho, when it comes to real estate, so. We put our house on the market a couple years ago.
About a year ago. Right.
I'm not gonna say which company we used.
Yeah.
But it was a I don't want to say terrible experience, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But when you sell houses, like honestly, real estate is something that I've been interested in for a long time. I feel like it's the perfect transition from property management to real estate, you know, for me.
Yeah.
But I just got caught up with like my other endeavors, so I never did it. But a little tip that what I did when we sold our house, I did something for the real estate agent, which is pretty crazy. Of course, you see people leave out like waters and stuff, right? And like stuff like for open houses, right?
Yeah.
But they leave the waters like in the box that it comes in. There's no presentation.
Yeah. Right.
Presentation is everything.
Sure is.
So we have an island in the middle of our kitchen. I had that whole bad boy set up with like cookies in a really nice cake platter. I had like chips and I had waters and like a really pretty wicker basket. Like the presentation was so I put like flowers in the middle. The presentation was so on point. I mean, our house didn't sell, but it had nothing to do with my host bread, okay? It had to do with the real estate agent. But I feel like that's important to do stuff like that, you know, to make yourself be different, you know?
You gotta set the environment.
Yeah.
The sales environment.
Exactly.
I think that's a big tip right there if you're trying to make your first sale. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the video chat thing I was talking about. That goes back to you.
Exactly.
Like, go into the available apartments before somebody gets there and closing all the doors because you're trying to set that environment. So when they get in there, it's like mystery. It's like, what's behind that door?
Yeah.
What's behind that door and this door? Right? Because you don't know the floor plans. I mean, you could, but like, you might not just go into the apartment. You might just go because it's a nice like area you want to go see.
That's another thing right there. You reminded me. So one thing I would do, a little tip to get your first sale, you want to sound as knowledgeable as you can. Yeah. So what I would do is I would memorize every floor plan, every square foot, like even like the size of the bedrooms, like knowing like, oh yeah, the master's is 12 by 12 or whatever the case is. That makes you sound so much more knowledgeable.
It does.
To where they're like, oh, this girl knows her stuff. And it honestly closes the sale.
Yeah.
Because if you can answer a question without being like, oh, let me talk to my manager or let me ask my boss, let me ask whatever.
I hate that.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think that has to do with it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about with you? Darryl was like, let's brag on Darryl a little bit now because he wants to brag on me. He was like a master at phone sales, working at Sprint now.
Oh, okay.
No longer Sprint.
Right, yeah.
Sprint's no more.
Right.
But when you did work at Sprint, you were the top sales guy in the company. Mm-hmm. Why was it so easy for you to sell phones?
I think it goes back to some of the basics we're talking about right now, as far as like setting the environment. I mean, thinking of the specific stores that I've worked at, which is like, it was like 5 maybe total I got to sell at. And they're all different environments, by the way. Like some are like downtown in a big city. Some are like more out in the country. Some are like brand new stores. Some are stores that have been there for forever. So all the stores have different problems. But like the sooner you can set this environment of like, this is cool. Like you are here at this store because it is cool to be. Like cool meaning like it is cutting edge. It is awesome. You are so smart for being here. That type of thing. And you're setting the environment that they kind of have at like Apple. Like when you walk into the Apple store, you're just like, yeah, this is the spot right here. Yeah. The sooner you can set that environment for selling something like with technology, like something that's like a physical technology that you can hold, or even if it's not, even if it's like intangible, like the sooner you can do that, number one, it sets you apart. And then 2, to your point, the sooner you can tastefully drop specs.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to like really like underline, highlight, and put quotations around the word tasteful because you're not doing it to sound like a robot. You don't want to be like, well, the camera, the phone has like a camera of, I don't know, 12 megapixels or 20, whatever is hot right now. I don't know. Right. Just for the sake of it, you want to like bring up that one fact, but give them a benefit as to why it matters, right?
Yeah, or bring in like even their daughter, like, oh, your daughter is super cute. I'm sure you take a lot of pictures. This camera has whatever, kind of like that.
Exactly. Like let's say like going on that type of scenario, right? They come in and let's say they got a little baby, like less than 6 months, or maybe like it's a couple that's pregnant. They're about to have their baby. Like, oh, you know what? You don't want to miss any moments, right? I mean, you definitely want to hire a photographer to take like the legit baby photos you have on your wall, but like for all the little moments where they're like waking up or they're rolling over, like you want to have the best, like highest quality camera phone that you have because you can take
and throw that memory on too.
Exactly, right? And you want to take a bunch of photos. You don't want to like get to the point where it's like, oh, now that they've been around for 3 months and you've been going photo crazy, now you need a new phone or you got to take all your photos off and throw it somewhere else. You want the biggest, baddest phone you can because this is a very important time in your life. Like throw things like that in there and all of a sudden they're like, man, they're so right. I need that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that stuff is convincing because all you're doing, you're just trying to tell them the truth. And what leads me to our next point about how to make your first sale. All you're really trying to do when you're trying to sell someone is bring up indisputable facts.
Yeah.
That just get them to agree with you.
Yep.
Right? It could be really anything, but like, okay, back to the leasing agent part, right? Or point. Let's say they're coming in. I think one thing that I would do is be like, I mean, obviously you guys want to live in the best place you possibly can, right? For like compared to the amount of money that you have to spend on an apartment, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna say yes to that question. So you get the yes train going, right? You can ask another one.
Yeah.
I don't know. And obviously you guys want to like, because you can't talk about safety and stuff, right? Because that's the
It's
rules
fair
against
housing.
that.
Yeah,
Fair housing.
With fair housing, it's a little bit complicated. I found ways to get around it.
Yeah, you just got to be like,
but I'm not really
tactful.
Comfortable discussing them on here.
Okay, you just got to be tactful with the
Yeah.
wording. But the point is that you just want to ask questions that lead to an inevitable yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Because when you get around it, you're not asking outright, but you're also like kind of letting the parents know like everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
With like safety.
Yeah. And even if it was like something else, like way more simple, like stainless steel cabinets, those are nice, right?
Stainless steel cabinets.
Stainless steel. Oh my bad. Cabinets. My bad. Stainless steel appliances. Those are nice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Granite countertops. Those are pretty nice, right? Yeah. Like just get guesses.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then I think that snowballs because they're gonna be like, yeah, well, it is nice. Yeah, it is nice. And then maybe a good thing can happen, which is an objection comes up.
Yeah.
It's actually a good thing for objections. And let me tell you why, though.
Yeah.
This is your very first
That's
sell.
when objections are literally when you sell.
Exactly, because they're kind of like serving you up a lob here, and you can just go take it and just go dunk it. Really, that's how I look at it. But yeah, like, well, I don't know about the size of the bedroom though. Maybe it's a little bit too small, right? And then you can handle it.
You want to handle it?
Handle it. You want to role play for a second?
Okay.
Yeah, role play. How to get your first sale. Let's do it. Okay.
So we're doing leasing?
Do leasing.
Okay.
Right, so...
I'm a little rusty, so let's see if I can...
You'll get it. Okay, so let's say it's just me.
Okay.
Let's say it's the bachelor
well,
that you're selling.
technically, I did sell
Oh
Darryl.
my gosh.
Darryl did come to my apartment complex, and that's how we met.
This is true.
Because he was looking for an apartment, and...
I found way more.
You found way more.
Okay, so... You're going to show me an apartment.
Yeah.
And let's say my objection to you is the bedroom's too small. And the bedroom's not even that small. Let's say it's like standard size. I'm like, oh, it's a little too small compared to my last apartment or whatever.
You know what's always the good word people use?
What's that?
Cozy.
Ooh.
Yeah, so instead of being like, okay, look, I understand it's a little bit smaller, which is also cozy.
Yeah.
Just imagine you don't need to continuously buy more and more stuff, so you're saving money on that end. So really, all that, because it's a smaller apartment, you don't really, a smaller bedroom, you don't need to continuously buy more and more stuff to make it feel like full. It's small, so all you need is your nightstands, your bed, you have your dresser, you can put a little chair right there in the corner. That's really all you need.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you don't spend a lot of time in your bedroom. You spend time in the living room. Our living room is big. You can put anything you need over there. You want to put a piano over there? You want to put your little video game station? Got it out there. Your bedroom is meant to sleep and to be relaxing, and cozy is the perfect way to help with your melatonin levels to go to sleep faster. You know, put a candle on, it's going to smell even better. So.
Nice. That was good. That was great.
I haven't sold that in forever.
Yeah.
Ask me about influencer marketing or branding, I got you.
Yeah, you'd be on it, right?
Yeah, because now I'm like, I don't even know if that would sell the apartment.
Yeah. So what about, you want to role play with me? All right, give me a scenario.
Sorry, I was drinking a coffee.
It's all good.
All right, when it comes to what, like phone sales?
Yeah, give me something.
All right. Family of 3 comes in.
Okay.
Mom, dad, son.
Mm-hmm.
Son is 12, wants a phone.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are unsure. Or no, let's say this. Mom's unsure, dad's sure. So dad wants his son to get a phone. Mom doesn't.
Yeah.
How do you win mom over?
Yeah. I think it'd be good to know what mom cares about, right?
The bad stuff, like.
What do you mean the bad stuff?
Like the stuff that he shouldn't be looking at. The dirty stuff.
The dirty stuff?
Yeah. Like a lot of parents are concerned about like what their kids are on their phones looking at.
Okay.
So stuff like that.
Fair. Well, then, okay, if that was a scenario, I would say, listen, we're about halfway there, right? We're like more than that. We're about 66% there. There's 3 of you guys, right? Son's on board, dad's on board. So mom, like, I get where you're coming from, right? Like, you're mother hen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, your job is to protect him and make sure that, he's on the up and up and staying safe. there's a lot of tools that come with this phone that already have privacy built in. Like, for instance, if you want to be on YouTube, there's YouTube Kids.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be on the adult YouTube. Like, you can stay separate for now. Wait till he's 13, 14, 15. He can get on big boy YouTube, right? But for now, he can do that. There's also a bunch of like learning things he can do on this phone that probably more geared to what you want him to pay attention on, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of other things that he can do on this phone that have nothing to do with anything bad, anything too early, right? And also, why don't you just get him Disney Plus? I'd have, like, if it comes to entertainment, just throw him on Disney Plus. Say, hey, you can't have any other apps on the phone until this age.
So you would go straight for, like, the privacy aspect.
Straight for the privacy aspect and straight for stuff that's already, like, done for you, right? Like, stuff that you didn't have to worry about. If the rule is you can't have YouTube or Twitter or Instagram on your phone because you're too young, you got to stick with just Disney Plus for now and maybe, like, a math game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then that's what you got to do.
You know what I would do also?
What's that?
I'll be way dramatic with it. I'd be like, okay, let's say his name is Trent and she's Sally. I don't know. I'm coming up with these
the
crazy
mom and
names.
dad?
Yeah, no, the little boy.
Okay.
Trent. I'd be like, okay, so how about this?
Yeah.
Miss Sally, let's make a little agreement right now with Trent. Trent, mom will get you this phone if you promise to always answer when she calls. Now I'll look at the mom and be like, that's one of the reasons why it's important for him to have a phone. So you can always be, like, if he's having a sleepover or whatever, you can always reach him. That's what most parents want, is to always be able to reach their kids, no matter what. In this crazy world, especially. So, Trent, can you tell your mom right now that you would answer every single time she calls, and that would create, like, a little, like, bonding.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like that, right? That's what he would say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that'll instantly be like, okay, fine.
Yeah, melt her down.
I did that with leasing all the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, where our student housing was off campus living.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't on campus. It wasn't like the University Oaks with the dorms and stuff.
Yeah.
We were like closer to the highway, like being able to.
Right.
You remember?
Yeah.
So a lot of parents didn't want their kids to be staying there. They wanted them to be on campus.
Mm.
So I would say that, be like, okay, make a promise to your daddy right now that you won't leave unless you tell him. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And then the dads, they'll start hugging. Sometimes it got emotional because it was like freshmen.
I love you, Dad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would like go in the emotional route of the cell, and that always worked.
Yeah. Great tip.
Yeah.
And good news, we have a lot more great tips coming up when we come back. This is the Branded Hustle. See you guys in a little bit.
Hey guys, this is Darryl checking in. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. This is the Branded Hustle.
All right, and we're back. You guys are watching the Branded Hustle podcast and listening to the Branded Hustle podcast. So glad you guys can be with us here. Today, we're talking about how to get your first sale.
Yep.
And on the first part of the talk here, we were talking about really, like, I guess, mindset being a thing, also like kind of setting me a sales environment. Now we want to move on just a teeny bit and talk about some other things that will help you get your first sale.
Okay. Cool.
So the first question I've had for you was, let's say you're brand new, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most likely if you're brand new in sales, you're going to be working at a company. You have somebody to kind of like model your sales game after, if you will. But really the question is how do you know you're picking the right person to model your sales game after? So here's my advice.
Yeah.
So I think if you're brand new in sales, I think you have an advantage if the company that you work at has their calls recorded.
Mm.
Because what you can do is look at the stack rank, see who's crushing it, see who's the best person, and then either ask for their calls, or if you can just download them. But listen to them a lot.
Yeah.
Because what I think you're going to find out, you're going to have like your script, like your demo guide script of like, okay, this is how a demo should be ran. These are the questions we ask. These are some of the common objections that come up like for our product and for this industry. But you see how others would handle it compared to you, and that could be a good tip. I give you one tip that somebody gave me. They would do the call thing, right? They download the call, they listen to it, and then they have their script right next to them, and then they listen to the call, and then they wait for the customer to bring up an objection, and they hit pause on the call. Oh. And then they would try to handle it, just for practice. They would try to just handle the objection. Like, what would they say if they were in that salesperson's shoes in that moment, knowing what they know about that prospect? What would they actually say in that moment? And then they would say it, and then they hit play on the call, and they would hear what that top salesperson would do, and they would see, like, is my game off? Is it not? That's a good thing too. Like to your point about sports, whatever.
Yeah.
Like maybe Kobe was watching some like old tapes of Jordan,
Yeah.
and maybe Jordan was going like with his left hand to the baseline, hit pause on the video and be like, okay,
what's he gonna do next?
Should he pull up for the jump shot right there? Should he pass to Pippen in the corner? Should he like continue to go more baseline and like try to dunk the ball? Like, so you just think like, am I making the right sales decisions in the moment compared to somebody else? And that's a good technique. So what you could do is pick like the top 5 people in your sales organization, on your sales team, whatever, and play that game and be like, okay, they would do this right here. I'm going to do this for this reason. Because maybe you listen to that call, maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're like, you know what though? Maybe you could have handled that a little bit better. Especially if you go to the very end of the call and you realize whatever that objection wasn't handled all the way. You're like, oh, it should have been hammered more in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's also, so when it comes to finding the perfect mentor, I feel like it's important to, like, just study people. Yeah. So what I did with leasing, I literally would shadow people way longer than, like, I should have. So, like, when you're training, you get to shadow people. Yeah. But I wanted to keep shadowing people. Even when I was already, like, not even in training. Just because I wanted to learn on what to do, what not to do. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a specific mentor per se. But I looked at everybody that's been there longer than me. And I would see what they would do and what they would not do. Right. And I learned from that.
And the thing is, too, the reason why I wanted to phrase the question the way that I did, as far as, like, who to choose to kind of, like, roll your, or, like, associate your game with. Yeah. Like, you know, like, off of theirs, is because just because they've been there for a while doesn't mean that they're the best person to model your game after.
Exactly. Just like you said, even if it was, like, a top person that got the sale, but you wouldn't say something that he said. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, this is the thing that I always try and say about mentors and, like, people that you look up to. You have to find your own game. You have to find out what you are. Because, like, when I was in leasing, I really wouldn't model my game after anybody. I just picked and choose, like, what I liked and what I didn't like. Right. But I also would implement stuff, kind of how you said in the last episode about association. You know, I brought in a lot of my retail sales knowledge, and I just used that for my leasing game, you know? So I think it's important to say that too. Like, not just because they worked there longer, that seniority to me doesn't always have to be a good thing. No. People love to use it as like, oh, I can do what I want. I'm the best. You're not really the best if you're still in the same position for like the last 10 years or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah. But so to switch gears a little bit, kind of how I said right now, you spend a lot of time crafting your sales game. Right. Right? What's the perfect amount of time, if there is any, to craft? Like, how much time should you spend on your craft?
How much time should you practice your craft to get really good?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I think some people just maybe have, like, maybe it's a little more innate for them. Mm-hmm. Like, they're kind of just born with it, if you will. So, like, they might kind of scoff at practice. Yeah. But I feel like, for the most part, everybody could benefit. And what I used to do, you got to have a strict routine when it comes to practice. You really do. And you really need the people around you to be down with the routine. That way they don't, like, do things intentionally to, like distract you from the routine. So the routine should be, like, you wake up, get your workout on, right? Get some good food in, eat breakfast. And then after that, it's like you need to be listening to those calls that I was just talking about. The people that are in your organization that are making sales. Right? You need to be listening to those things like over and over again until it is like so annoying to listen to. And I don't mean that in like a real negative way. I just mean that because you listen to it so many times, you know everything there is to know about that one phone call. But doing that over and over again makes you an expert. You have to get that tedious. Yeah. So you need to do that in the morning before you even like consider making a phone call to a prospect. You have to be listening to those calls like relentlessly every single day. And then really like even after the day's over, go right back to it. Listen to your own calls. Listen to the calls of people around you that are doing really well, right? And really measure yourself. That's like how you speed up the learning, speed up your ramp time.
I agree.
Because you listen to so many calls. It's like you doing that, like you may be a new salesperson, but you listen to all those calls like that. It's like you've worked there for like 6 months already. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because you've gotten the level of experience that somebody would have if they just dialed and didn't listen to any calls after 6 months. So you put yourself like on a super fast track to hit it, you know, hit sales quick and, you know, hit quota quick and get a lot of sales.
Yeah, I agree. Also, another thing I would do, so with leasing agent, we don't really have that cold call type of thing, right? Yeah. But what I would do is if I felt like, also when you're in sales, you get to know whether you close a sale or not pretty instantly. Like after a person would leave or a family would leave, I would know if they were gonna lease or not.
Right.
There was very little times where I was surprised they actually said yes.
Right.
But you can kind of know, like, that's a no.
For the most part, yeah.
What I would do is on their guest card. So every time we had somebody come in, we had to do a guest card with their name and their information and stuff. When they belong to you, you can have them in your folders, right? So right after a person left, if I knew it was a no, I would write a post-it note, and I would write what I felt I did wrong that made them not lease. You know,
right.
And you have to like be open with yourself. You know, you can't just be like, oh well, like sometimes it was like, oh well, their house, the time frame didn't work or whatever. You can still write that. But if there is an instance where you kind of feel like a little awkward, because as a salesperson, you're not gonna be perfect. Like nobody's perfect. You know, like even if you have a bad day and you try and like leave it all at home and try and have a good day, there's times where you just can't shake it off for some reason. And I feel like it's important to like write down when you don't, like when you do something wrong, and you would write it out, and then you study those. So take them home and be like, okay, so I did this. Or, you know what I also would do? I would notice when I would do something more than once, and I was like, okay, I need to stop doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like you've made a bad habit on accident.
Exactly.
Like you need to extinguish it.
I would notice, like I said too much, or I said like too much.
Yeah.
Or I feel like I say like now so much more than I used to back then, because I don't know, like you said, I just said it right now. It's just weird. But when you're
it breeds uncertainty.
Exactly. With the likes, the pauses.
Right.
And if I felt that was the reason why I didn't like lease that apartment, I would write it down, and then I would study all my notes, and I would see, okay, stop doing that, you know? So it was kind of like you're like training your own self in a way.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't do stuff like that, but if you want to be the best of the best, you have to find ways to train your mind and train yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you're not officially being trained.
You have to take the responsibility. Yeah. You're accountable for yourselves anyway, so why not hold yourself to a super high standard and force yourself to do these things?
Exactly. Because also, even with commission or with your sales month, right? You see like, okay, this month I got this many sales, I made this much money. The month before I made more. Why? You have to like kind of break it down. So you have to find ways to make yourself better, you know?
Right. So let's ask this. So what do you think, let's talk about rejection for a second.
Okay.
So you're brand new in sales.
Yeah.
And
man.
Right?
Yeah.
And some people are going to say no, right? You could be, you could work a variety of sales jobs for your very first one. You could be on the phones, you could do leasing, you could be like in car sales, you could be maybe the guy or the girl that's at the grocery store that's like, hey, wait, let me talk to you about the cable or whatever, right? But like, let's talk about the mentality part for a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about what it actually takes to handle a boatload of rejection.
And it's a boatload.
In order to get that first sale. Right? So, like, what are some things that you do to keep the confidence high? Right? Keep the smile on your face and keep persevering.
Yeah. Like, honestly, I feel you hear this all the time when you're little, when it comes to sports, right? That sports prepares you for so much in life.
Yeah.
And I feel like basketball prepared me for, like, failure. Because you're not going to win every single game. You're not, or maybe if you do win every single game, you're not going to have a great game every single time.
Right.
We literally just saw Kawhi score only 14 points last game. When Kawhi's supposed to be like the best of the best.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Go Spurs go. Anyway. So I feel like that prepares you, for the rejection that you will deal with in sales. It's inevitable. Like, I might have killed it in leasing, but not every single person said yes to me.
Yeah. And
I had to be okay with that. And that's when I, like, would take a look back and be like, okay, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
So, like, why didn't they lease with me?
Mm-hmm.
Where did they go?
Yeah.
I would call back, and I would even ask them sometimes. Like, I went through it all the time because I get shy. Because you got to have thick skin. That's what it comes down to. And I would ask them. Well, they were never jerks about it. When you would ask, like, okay, so was there a reason why you didn't lease here or whatever? You got to, like, do it in that, like, in that tone,
that nonchalant.
Exactly. Like, no big deal.
Tone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that handling failure and having thick skin is crucial in sales. What about you? What do you think?
So I think to begin, you have to know not everybody's going to want what you're selling.
Yeah.
Right? Now, hopefully, a large majority do. And that's what's going to make the company successful and ultimately you successful.
Mm-hmm.
but not everybody's going to be like, let's do it. So some of it is timing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they just sign up for a similar product and they want to see it through, they're loyal, whatever. But to your point, I think you're spot on when it comes to knowing why. You just want to know why. If someone says no, what was it?
Mm-hmm.
And what I would want to do to take a step further, you want to own it.
Yeah.
Own the why they said no. So was it my tone? Was it my approach? Was it my pitch? Like, is it? Because they can tell you all types of things. It's the time of the year. It's this, it's that, right?
Yeah.
All these excuses. But really, though, if what I said, what I had to say, the value proposition I presented to you, if it was so right, if it was so great, you just would have said yes. And you know that's true.
Yeah.
Right? If you have the money, you have the need, and I'm giving you all this value, you're going to say yes. So what about what I did was wrong? Mm-hmm. What can I improve on? Because you can't focus on all the things that you can't control, because that'll just drive you up a wall.
Exactly.
You can't control, like, oh, it's late in the year. Oh, they're a new business. Oh, they're an old business. Whatever. They can have any excuse, but you got to be like, okay, here's my pitch. Here's what I did. Did it work? Did it not? What are the reasons why? Mm-hmm. And as long as the percentage is in your favor, okay, your pitch was good, you sounded tight, whatever, more often than not, you're going to get the sale anyway. So it's really not like anything you can't overcome. It's just you got to know that people are going to say no for whatever reason, but you got to be able to like figure out, okay, what am I doing right or wrong?
Yeah. I feel like humility is so important in sales.
Right.
I feel like salespeople get a bad rap for being like arrogant and cocky and stuff like that. But you have to have a lot of humility to be a good salesperson. Yeah. Because you deal with a lot of rejection. Mm-hmm. You deal with a lot of no's.
Especially because most of the time, depending on like what you do it in front of your peers. Yeah. So people can literally see you get rejected. Yeah. And then
which is crazy.
There's a social parameter that comes up, and it's like kind of awkward. But then you got to act like that's not a thing.
Yeah, it's like they don't do it outright, but you feel like it's like those silent ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes their silence is a loud ooh.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're just like, this is embarrassing, especially if like you get like kind of schooled, you know, or if like it's the worst thing when they like people just change on you. Like I remember like when I would push the least sometimes, right? If I knew like they could still say yes. But then when you hear like the person be like, I don't want to get sold, okay? Just stop. And you're just like, oh dang. You know, like has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Where you're just like, and then people are all around you. It's like for some reason every time that happened to me, there was like a huge crowd of my peers around me. Yeah. And it was like, oh my goodness, so embarrassing. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry you feel that way. You know, how can I stay or whatever? But you're just like, oh crap. Yeah. Like, that was so. I mean,
ultimately, like when you handle it with a class, though, I feel like that prospect automatically feels bad. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, I did way too much.
And their tone changes. Because you hit them with that, I totally understand. I'm sorry you feel that. I'm sorry. Yeah. And they're just like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, so it's just, and they always apologize for the most part. Yeah. Like, I remember this one dad, he was like, I'm sorry, I'm very stressed out, and I have 2 kids to go into different schools, and they're stressed out, and I tell them, like, you know, I totally understand, like, we're all going through something. Yeah. You know, I get that, you know, my parents were so stressed out when I came here, and he's like, oh, thanks. Thank you for understanding.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes the rejection we face as salespeople has nothing to do with us. Yeah. You know, that person is having a bad day. Exactly. And it's like, okay, what can I do about that? Yeah. I can't do anything.
And that's the thing. We can't do anything about that. So you can't always go like super hard on yourself, because there are moments where, you know, it's not you. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. As far as sales, you know, it's very important to dress the parts and to speak the parts. Right. A lot of sales really is acting. It really is putting on like being a whole different person almost. Sometimes it feels like.
Sometimes.
And what do you feel about that? Like, how do you?
I mean, the thing is, you have to respect your customer. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So let me give you some examples, right? If I'm a real estate agent and you invite me to come to your home to possibly list it, and I show up like in a regular t-shirt. I mean, that might work for some people. But if I show up in a regular t-shirt and like some shorts, you know, maybe flip-flops, most people are going to be thinking like, okay, is this guy or guy really professional? Yeah. Right? Versus you show up like in a suit or like a really nice dress shirt. You looking professional. Like they just take you more seriously, right? Mm-hmm. And you're trying to leave an impression. So when you're selling, you have to understand like, what does my customer expect of me? right? So like when I was selling, if I was selling like someone in the medical space, I realized like, okay, if they're in the medical space, they're obviously smart people. Like if they're a doctor, right, or nurse or whatever, they're obviously smart. And the way that they interact with their patients is always probably really friendly for the most part, right? They speak with uptones. They're like, "Hey, how are you? Okay, glad you're having a great day. Take your medicine, whatever," right?
Yeah.
So they're they're kind of like rainbows and butterflies. So like if I'm about to pitch a person like that, I ought to kind of do that type of thing to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Because that makes them feel comfortable. So you have to get in that mindset and kind of make yourself be similar to that. Now, if you're selling like a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Like a criminal attorney, rough and tough, like I'm gonna get you justice or whatever, Yeah. Like they're going to be a lot more hard-nosed. You're not going to find too many attorneys that, you walk in their office and it's like rainbows and butterflies.
That is true.
It's going to be like, I'm a lawyer, I'm serious. So when you speak to them, you pitch them, you need to be a little more serious because that's what they expect. And if you sold a blue-collar person, you might be a little more relaxed, right? Because most blue-collar people are like down to earth, they're chilling, they're, they have, nothing's not professional or intelligent, but they have like a little more like relaxedness to them, if you will.
Agreed.
So when you pitch them, you ought to be somewhat similar. So my thought on this is that you need to understand who you're selling to and do not be afraid to get in their world and kind of mimic or mirror, there we go, mirror like how they are with their patients, their customers or clients, right?
Agreed.
Because all that's going to do is make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And you have to look the part. There's a reason why someone can wear a white lab coat, a doctor, walk into a room and just pretty much say whatever and you believe it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, you're a doctor, so I expect you to tell me things that are correct. So, most people just kind of flow with it because they're doctors. Not to say that they would listen to everything the doctor has to say if they said something crazy.
Yeah.
But my point is that, like, they're expecting you to be a professional, and you have to, like, live up to their expectation of what a professional is.
Yeah, agreed. When it comes to dressing the part and, like, looking the part and speaking the part, that all comes down to brand.
Yeah.
Brand. Speaking professionally, speaking courteously, and always looking nice, like there's been times where you see people walk into work or even walk when you're working and you see interviews come in, you're just like, are they really wearing that right now? Like what?
Yeah.
What is in their thought process? Or like you have to sit in interviews and people are just like, yeah, this job could be cool, I guess. So you're just like, you're not, like, this is not what
they're
you
not
want.
selling themselves at all. Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to is sales, like I said earlier, you're having them buy you before they can buy something from you.
Right.
And you need to be presentable. You need to speak properly. You need to sound educated.
They have to believe you.
They have to believe in you as well.
Right, yes.
And that's the thing that I feel like a lot of people don't really, like, not a lot of people. That's the thing that I feel some people don't understand.
Right.
Is that they feel like, oh, appearance isn't that big of a deal and the way I speak isn't that big of a deal. But it really is. That honestly determines the best from the so-sos.
Yeah. That's really most of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So when we come back, we have hustle stories.
Yeah.
And also the book of the week. Can't
Cool.
wait to get into it.
Yeah.
Be right back.
Hey guys, it's Lori. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at The Branded Hustle and also follow Darryl on LinkedIn at Darryl Darks. This is The Branded Hustle.
And we're back with more Branded Hustle podcast.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So here we go. We got the hustle stories coming up.
Yep.
So this episode, we've been talking about how to make your first sale. So we want to walk you through our hustle stories on how we actually got our first sales.
Mm-hmm.
Coolness?
Yeah.
So I'll go first.
Okay.
Cool. So my very first sale, man, I got to take this all the way back
Yeah.
to like the summer between 7th and 8th grade.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the story. So I started my own little lawn mowing business because I was like, man, I want to be able to buy shoes, Nikes. I think like Air Force Ones by Nelly
Oh my
was like on the
gosh.
radio, and I was like, this is cool. I want some of those, and I want to be able to pay for them myself and not have to worry about it. Or like maybe get the new Xbox if that was even out back then. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But whatever, right? So anyway, I was like, okay, I'm going to start this lawn mowing business, and I'm going to go door to door, trying to get sales, knocking on doors and see what happens.
Yeah.
So of course, the first, I don't know, maybe like 10 doors, it was either like a no or they just didn't answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you're like a little kid, you're like, oh man, all right, this kind of sucks, but whatever, you just keep going.
Yeah.
And after the 10 doors or so of rejection, a lady finally answered. And she was like, obviously, like, I can just tell she's in a better mood. You can just kind of feel it. And I guess it's like me learning about psychology and sales right then and there. So I knock on the door. She answers. And I go into my little pitch. My little pitch was really simple back then. It was like, hi, I'm Darryl. Can I mow your lawn? And that was it. It was very simple. But after getting...
But adorable.
Thank you. Adorable. But after getting like a no from my next door neighbor, which I thought would be down. Like, my neighbor said no.
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Hater.
My neighbor said no. Some other neighbors obviously said no. But I finally got someone to say yes. And I was like, awesome. So she said, yeah, you can mow my grass. And so I mowed the grass, got the $20. And that was really it. But what was cool, was knowing that if I just knocked on more doors, I could make another $20.
Yeah.
And that 20 would go to 40, 60, 100, and hundreds of dollars as a kid. And I'm like, that's cool, because it's not like I was trying to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
I was really just trying to buy me some new shoes.
You probably felt like a millionaire, though.
I did, because I was getting money that didn't come from my parents. Right? It was like straight from me. I was like, ooh, it was that feeling of like control, if you will. That was really cool.
That couldn't happen in a Mexican household.
Why is that?
Because my parents were too strict.
Oh, to go out door to door?
I couldn't go out door to door or go babysit or go start a lawn care or do anything like that. That would never happen.
Sorry.
It's okay. My hustle story doesn't come like from like 7th grade, 8th grade.
Right.
It comes from like when I started leasing, you know?
Okay.
Like, well, when I was in college, my first job with sales was in retail with Old Navy.
Okay.
And I mean, I was doing really well, but you don't get paid off commission. So it wasn't really like I was just like upselling people just to win. Like, not really to make money, you know, because they weren't paying you. But as far as leasing goes, I remember I was nervous, but I was like, I think I can do this. So I wasn't too nervous, but I was shadowing a lot. I do remember my first sell was when I was being shadowed. And I got the sell. It was like I closed the first sell. But my shadower, the person that was shadowing, the person that was like training me.
Okay, yeah.
She said like a couple of things.
Like a couple tips?
Like a couple of closes.
Oh, okay. During the actual process. Okay.
Yeah. But I could tell that they're already like closing with me. And she just kind of like wanted to like put her 2 cents in, even though
no one asked for it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that technically wasn't my first close because she took it and put it under her name. And I was like, girl. Like,
not cool.
Not cool. But yeah, I just remember like the feeling of, wow, I can do this.
Right.
And it was like fun. Like it was the adrenaline, like your heart's racing when you're trying to close a sale. So and you're just like, you gotta be really quick on your feet with like thinking of rebuttals. And I just remember like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. And yeah, I just remember the feeling I had. I don't remember the person, like the exact thing, because it was like, I feel like that first leasing job was, I met so many people because I would get like 10, 12 leases a day.
Right.
You meet so many people, you know? I remember you. I remember meeting my friend Amanda because I sold her dad and her mom.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple other people, you know, but it's just like so many people you meet that I just can't pinpoint the exact like person.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's whatever, but I just remember I closed it and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember the person tried to take my lease from me.
Not cool. You get that feeling of being on cloud 9 though.
Oh, that's what you chase.
Yes.
Like when you first feel that, you're like, ooh, that's right there what I want.
I think that's such a great point.
Yeah.
To people that are trying to make their first sale, it's not about the money.
No.
It's about that feeling you get when they say yes. It's that feeling of accomplishment.
That's what it's about. Like, because even then, I wasn't getting paid commission like that. Yeah. I was getting my rent paid with the apartment, you know? But it was about the chase and like, oh, they said yes. And signing that contract, you're like, ooh, I closed it.
Yeah.
So.
What you're really chasing is that like adrenaline boost.
Agreed.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's what you get when they say, yeah, I'll come on board with you. I'm like, let's go. And then you just chase it all day long. Yeah. And then it actually does help you, of course, financially too.
Because you hold on to that. You hold on to like what closed the sale and those little like everything that you come up with, like as far as your sales techniques, your sales tips, your sales tactics go, you put that in your arsenal and you don't forget what you're saying. Yeah. I feel like it's so important that like you don't forget what you're saying because you hold on to them and you keep reusing them.
Oh yes.
Like reuse it and
right into the rules fall off.
Exactly, and it's going to close deals for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't have my little like elementary or middle school. I would sell
You
friendship.
did have one though.
I would sell friendship bracelets for $1.
I have one for you that she's totally forgetting right now.
What?
This is what she used to do when she was like, I don't know, elementary, like I would say, 8 years old, something like that, maybe 5. What she would do for like to make sales and make a little money on the side was invite her parents or family members into her room. Let me show you what she would do.
I totally
So
forgot
she would
about
clean up her room to a T, right? Like almost like if it was like an attraction, like some amusement park type of a thing, like make it up to the nines, right? Fold her all her clothes
it was
up.
a chore. My mom said to clean my room.
I know, but let me tell it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me tell you what happened. Okay, so she makes up her bed. She gets all of her clothes all nice and organized. All her shoes are tight, right? And then she does her. It's like a precursor to what she would do in leasing. She would like
That's
walk
so
out of her
true.
room and close the door behind her, and then say, "Hey, mom. Hey, dad. Want to come get a tour of my room?" And they think she was the most precious thing, which she was and still is.
Oh gosh.
And so she'd be like, "You want to get a tour of my room?" And they'd be like, "Okay." So she'd literally like walk them. She would invite them into her room, give them a tour of like, "These are my shoes here. This is my bed here," and like give them the whole like grandiose tour. And at the end, she'd be like, "Okay, tips please. Put your tips right here." That's what she would do, and that's how she would make little cash
I would do that.
as a kiddo.
Yeah, because
That's a house of story all day, babes.
That is, but because my mom would tell me to clean my room, I figured let me clean my room and then give a tour. And you know what's funny? You say that, like I never realized it was like a precursor to what I did when I was leasing.
Yeah.
I did the same exact thing without even realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
See,
psychology.
See, hustle stories, man.
Hustle
They're all
stories.
around us.
They really are.
And on top of that, if you're brand new in sales, if you look at Lori's point, you probably already made your first sale in some way that you just haven't realized.
Yeah.
And they can really translate over to what you're doing now professionally.
Exactly.
Like technically, if you had to sell your parents on getting like that extra slice of pizza or staying up 1 extra hour, getting that video game, like you can already close a deal. Those are already closes right there. Now it's just time to take what you know works and just use it professionally.
And it all comes back down to association. What Darryl said from the last week's book, which was, what was it called?
Innovators
DNA, and association of like, just because you start, let's say you're starting a new sales job and it's the first time in that industry, think back and associate other instances like Darryl said with me giving my parents a tour of my cleaned room.
Yeah.
And just associate and be like, oh wait, I've done this before, and that'll kind of give you like a little bit more peace of like, okay, I shouldn't be as nervous, I shouldn't be as freaked out, like I got this.
Yeah.
So moving on to like association.
Yes.
This week's book is what?
It is by Dale Carnegie.
Oh, nice.
It is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is a classic book if you guys haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I've heard about that
It's
book.
about persuasion and, of course, how to like influence them to like make sales and make deals. But actually, interestingly enough, the story I want to talk about is not even really about sales. It's more about leadership.
Okay.
But there's one key point I think is great for first-time salespeople, which is empathy. Because when you understand your customer and you empathize with them,
agreed,
you get sales. So let me tell you a story. So I'm going to let you read the book for like all the details of the story, but I'm going to give you the cliff notes, if you will.
Gotcha.
So think about this for a second. This is like early 1900s, not super early, I'd say like maybe like 1920s, 1930s, right? And you have this world famous pilot that is like tried and true, had his name in magazines, all type of stuff. Like he's a big deal at the time. And he is going on some type of a test flight. So he's going to go out and fly this plane. And when he does fly the plane, he realizes by the time he's in the air, something's wrong with the mechanics of the plane.
Yikes.
Turns out that one of the engines is messing up. He has engine failure.
Oh, no.
And it's due to something that could have been avoided on the ground by the mechanic.
Ooh.
So think about this. Let's say you're a world-renowned pilot. You're in the air. You're flying. You say, oh, crap, there's an issue with the plane. I have to land this thing right now or I'm going to die.
Yeah.
What's the reaction most people would have? They probably what? What do you think?
Get mad at the mechanic.
They'd be angry, right?
Heck yeah.
So pissed off because this guy
prevented.
almost killed me.
Yeah. He
He goes to the mechanic and he says, this is the empathy part. He goes to the mechanic and he's like, you know what? The mechanic's already feeling it, by the way. Mechanic's already distraught, already knows he messed up. He's thinking he's about to, like, the pilot's going to come to the mechanic, and the pilot's going to drop the hammer on the mechanic, get super mad, right?
Yeah.
The pilot says this, hey, listen, you know what? We both know what happened, but I know that you're a good mechanic, and I know that you will never make this mistake again. So tomorrow, I want you to be my mechanic when I go flying tomorrow. Can you imagine how the mechanic felt? Like,
seriously.
They probably wanted to cry. They probably wanted to quit. And then you come to them and you're like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. We're all good.
Wow.
Like, it's all forgiven. You're going to be my guy tomorrow.
That's trust right there.
And you know the mechanic never messed up again. You just know it because you know no one would ever give you a second chance like that.
That's true. That's beautiful.
So he was empathetic toward that mechanic. Now you might be like, okay, how do I like implement that into my sales technique?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a hard one. I'm just saying right now. But at the same time though, like if you can find a way to empathize with your customers, like what are they really going through? Like where's the business right now? What is really important to them? Or like what are the people? If I'm selling like from business to a customer, what are my people really going through? Like if I'm a door-to-door salesperson or I sell at a retail store, like what is an issue with them that I can help solve?
Yeah.
Right? And how can I do it in a way that's convincing but also like very fun, right? It's exciting, it has a lot of enthusiasm in it. And once you do that, you're building so much value for your customer and for yourself. It's tremendous.
Agreed. And you will deal with that. You will deal with like moments where you have to like empathize a lot.
Mm-hmm.
With leasing, especially like I had multiple women leaving like bad relationships, like domestic abuse relationships.
Yeah.
And they would like literally walk into the apartment and just start bawling.
Mm.
And they're just like, wow, this is gonna be where I live. Like this is like my new start. And you have to like every single time that happened, like I would like be giving hugs.
Yeah.
I would be like, oh my gosh, it's okay and stuff. And they leased the apartment, you know, because they felt that connection, you know. So empathy in sales is I feel like it's very overlooked.
Yeah.
But when you sell something, they're not just a number. They're not just money.
Yeah.
It's not just like money in your pocket.
Yeah.
You need to make them feel like a human being.
Yeah.
You know.
Like literally, no other customer you ever had is as important as they are right now.
Exactly. And that's when you can become like the top salesperson. Is when you treat every single person individually like they're the best and the only customer you'll ever have.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Well, great.
Awesome.
This has been a really good episode of the Branded Hustle podcast. Hope you guys are going to take something away from this to really help your sales game out, in your branding game, or just whatever you're doing in your life. And you got to make a first sale or big impression or first good impression of whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we want to know your hustle story down in the comments below on what your first sell was. I feel like it's really fun to like look back and think about like, wow, like kind of how Darryl mentioned about me selling my cleaned room to my parents.
Yeah.
Like there's so many moments in your life where you really do sell without realizing you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
So try and think back of like the first sell you can remember and write it down below. We would love to hear that. Yeah. And also make sure you follow us on social media at The Branded Hustle and follow this man right here, Darryl Darks, on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And yeah, do you have anything else to say?
No, but I'm super excited though that you guys are watching and super excited to hear your comments so far. You guys are loving the podcast. So we can't wait to do more for you. So yeah, if you have any ideas for future podcasts, let us know also in the comments.
For sure. And subscribe to our channel here on YouTube.
Yes. And we'll be super happy to see you guys on the next one.
Yep. Bye guys.
See ya.